Nothing good can come out of talking unless you are moving like unless you're playing like 7D chess and you really have like some crazy elaborate plan worked out and you're now executing it by going onto media and putting storylines or narratives out there. I can't imagine that would ever be a good move.
Like he just took a handful of egg yolks and just wiped that and just slicked his shit back. This nigga just took fresh egg yolks and just. It's Dino.
What are the potential ramifications of a person who's facing a case like this calling in to podcasts? Because on one hand, as long as he doesn't say anything totally out of pocket, it doesn't seem like it would be the biggest deal, but it also seems like almost anything he says in this sort of situation is going to be placed under.
No, F that. He's been saying totally out of pocket shit since he's been locked up. Let's go with that narrative. Uncle Jesse Kasopoulos, let's go.
Extreme scrutiny. So how would you advise somebody like him in regards to how they should approach the media while they're locked up on a case like this?
Nothing good can come out of talking unless you are moving unless you're playing like 7D chess and you really have like some crazy elaborate plan worked out and you're now executing it by going onto media and putting storylines or narratives out there. I can't imagine that would ever be a good move.
The only elaborate plan is telling. They just using the internet and different clips to do so. So that may be the elaborate plot.
Okay, but does it like what are the likelihood? What's the likelihood from your perspective that any of that stuff that he's saying on podcasts could actually be used against him? Because if the situation is like they're looking for evidence that he might be a bad guy or a gangster or a tough guy or whatever, I mean, it feels like that ship has kind of already sailed, having been on, tons of different podcasts talking about that exact stuff. But then again, like, I guess talking about it from the feds maybe makes you look like you're not repentant, like you're still sort of celebrating this lifestyle. But I don't know how much that sort of character judgment would come into play.
There's just so many different angles, right? So the stuff you say can complicate things in so many ways. The repent angle is very important. Everything you say now is going to come up in a pre-sentence report if you take a plea or you go to trial and get found guilty. So it's important that you conduct yourself in a manner that's going to make you look really good after you got arrested so that your lawyer can go in there and say, Judge, once these charges were brought, my client has shown nothing but absolutely perfect behavior. So that's just, you don't want to be saying stuff that could be used against you in a pre-sentence report. The other thing you're saying.
So they saying that the image that he's portraying could make whatever charges worse, or they could give him the image of a that's not trying to change. He's saying that the best thing to do is for your lawyer to be like, look, since he's been charged, he hasn't been saying nothing. He's been a model citizen. He's been doing his time, but he really wants to get back home to his family. They're not going to do that if you are still calling, acting like you're a menace to everybody. They didn't have a jail fight, by the way. There was no jail fight involving Big U and none of that, okay? Just to put that out there.
Things that could now contradict what you said before. You're saying things that they could now ask you questions about. You're saying things that open up the comments section. Nothing good's going to come out of it.
No, definitely. Okay, so as far as the people who've already gotten out, there's been a lot of speculation that anyone who's gotten out already must be an informant or snitching. You're saying that's not necessarily the case because in reality, some of the people were charged with things so minor that we shouldn't be expecting them to have to sit down for an extended period of time.
Yes, I am saying that there are parts of this indictment that involve people who have not been directly implicated in the murder. They're only a subset of maybe, say, the prostitution angle or, say, the extortion angle. And so I'm not surprised that some of these people could get a bond. I think to the extent anybody is accusing anybody in the Big U indictment of snitching, they are doing it on the basis of non-public information. And so they would have to reference their sources. And then you'd have to take a detailed look at what that source is exactly. And so, the problem with that conversation right now is it's guaranteed that a good, if not large percent of what people are putting out there is just total bullshit and a waste of time. And it's not useful. If you're going to follow the case, if you're interested in the case, if you want to hear about the case, it's a good idea to stay away from speculating and guessing and sticking to what's in the public record, because that's what the judges look at. That's what the lawyers are looking at. That's what counts.
Definitely. Okay. One other thing about it is the fact that wait, hold on, what was I gonna say? Oh, okay. So the Fed showed up at my door. Basically, they wanted to issue a subpoena because they wanted to see the cease and desist that we received from Big U in regards to statements that Luce Cannon made on the podcast in which
This cream cheese nigga always trying to clear his name. So what, bro? You gave the papers up anyway. All right? Whatever they would have asked you for, you would have gave it up, nigga. They would have asked for your yams. I believe you would have gave your yams up willingly, champ.
Oh, wow.
basically said that he believed that Big U had advanced knowledge that Nipsey Hussle was going to be murdered. So we got a cease and desist about that maybe about a year ago. We ended up taking the episode down because we didn't want to deal with the bullshit, and it did seem pretty far-fetched at that time. But when the feds show up looking for that cease and desist, they wanted a physical copy of that. They wanted to get a copy of that. That made a lot of people, myself included, kind of curious, like how much of an indicator is that Big U might actually be being investigated for the murder of Nipsey Hussle, or from your perspective, if he's got a federal RICO and he's being charged with a murder, et cetera, is like is subpoenaing a cease and desist kind of par for the course in that sort of situation?
Is both. 100%. You're subpoenaing that cease and desist no matter what. Let's say you've investigated the Nipsey Hussle angle, you're the feds, and you've come to the conclusion 1,000% this guy had nothing to do with the Nipsey Hussle murder. You're still going to go investigate that cease and desist because you need that cease and desist, because you're claiming that this guy has legitimate businesses that he uses as a front for his illegitimate businesses. And he uses those legitimate businesses to go and money to, wash his cash, to go get loans from the government, whatever he's using those legitimate businesses.
It's like he just took a handful of egg yolks and just wiped that shit and just slicked his shit back, nigga. This nigga just took fresh egg yolks and just.
And a federal investigator hears a little story, and then they start kicking the can, and they start looking under here and looking under there. I'm sure the investigators have heard that story about Nipsey Hussle, and so I would guarantee that they've investigated it. Whether they've come to any conclusions, who knows?
Okay.
This is why you gotta be quiet when y'all come on here talking crazy. Now, what reason did Luce Cannon have to go on the podcast and say, Big U called me 30 minutes before Nipsey died, and I called Nipsey and I asked him, and Nipsey was cool, and then Nipsey died? What was the end goal? Street justice?
I know, right?
Come on, son. Like, he was trying to get Big U locked up, bro. All y'all niggas, bro. I don't got no picks, nigga. I'm from the town, nigga. I'm from New York. I don't got no picks. I call the shit how I see it, champ. All them niggas that was talking this Big U shit and all that, dude wanted Big U to go to jail. 600, Luce Cannon, Whack 100, y'all wanted Big U to go to jail, and now that he's in jail, y'all niggas backtracking. I'm not gonna hold you.